That the Ayatollah, the supreme leader of Iran, is dead.
After 36 years in power, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is dead.
The supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is dead following that major attack by the U.S. in Israel.
La mort du guide suprême iranien Khamenei confirmée à 2h30.
6岁的伊朗最高领导人哈梅内伊证实遇袭身亡。
そして宗教の最高指導者ハメネイ氏はですね、
Насколько он действительно был главным человеком в Иране и насколько его ликвидация в самом...
Mismo ha confirmado la muerte de Khamenei. Estamos buscando
al confirmar la muerte del Ayatollah Ali Khamenei en los ataques
حضرت امام خامنه ای با نوشیدن شهد گوارای شهادت الله العظما سید علی حسینی خامنه ای در راه سربلندی حرم جمهوری اسلامی ایران.
February 28th, 2026. At exactly 1:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as most of America slept, the United States Pentagon issued a flash alert. Major combat operations had begun. But halfway across the world, in the bustling heart of Tehran, it wasn't the dead of night. It was 7:40 in the morning. Broad daylight. Commuters were on the streets. Government officials were sitting at their desks. And then, the sky tore open. In a matter of minutes, a synchronized, devastating barrage of American cruise missiles and Israeli precision-guided bombs rained down on Iran's most heavily fortified political and military sectors. This was not a warning shot. This was a decapitation strike. Operation Epic Fury, alongside its Israeli counterpart, Operation Roaring Lion, was designed with one brutal objective: to systematically dismantle Iran's military infrastructure and eliminate its supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. But how do you hunt down one of the most heavily guarded men on the planet? How did the CIA pierce through layers of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' deception to pinpoint his exact location? And why did military planners throw decades of nighttime combat doctrine out the window to execute the most daring daylight raid in modern history? Despite several major talks between Iran and the United States over the past decade regarding the clear doctrine of Iran's nuclear program, all have failed. This eventually led to Operation Midnight Hammer. On June 22, 2025, the United States Air Force and Navy attacked 3 nuclear facilities in Iran as part of the 12-day war. The Fordow Uranium Enrichment Plant, the Natanz Nuclear Facility, and the Isfahan Nuclear Technology Center. These were targeted with 14 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, also known as bunker buster bombs. They were carried by B-2 Spirit stealth bombers alongside Tomahawk missiles fired from a submarine. According to U.S. President Donald Trump, U.S. F-35 and F-22 fighters also entered Iran's airspace to draw its surface-to-air missiles, but no launches were detected. It was the first U.S. attack on an Iranian target since the 2020 assassination of Qasem Soleimani, and the first on Iranian territory since a 1988 naval offensive. President Trump stated the strikes completely and totally obliterated Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities.
The attack was the United States' only offensive action in the 12-day war, which began on June 13th with surprise Israeli strikes and ended with a ceasefire on June 24, 2025. Following the breakdown of the Geneva nuclear negotiations between Iran and the United States on February 26, 2026, Washington issued a strict 10-day ultimatum. When that clock ran out, the plan was greenlit. The United States had quietly amassed its largest military presence in the Middle East since Operation Iraqi Freedom. Carrier strike groups, stealth bomber squadrons, and guided missile submarines were all locked on their targets. But the Pentagon knew that striking Iran could trigger a massive, uncontrollable regional war. To prevent a coordinated Iranian counterattack, the plan was split into a devastating 1-2 punch. Punch 1, Israel's Operation Roaring Lion. Their primary objective was the decapitation strike, eliminating the supreme leader and top military commanders. Punch 2, America's Epic Fury. The Pentagon's job was to completely overwhelm and annihilate Iran's air defenses, ballistic missile silos, and naval capabilities, so they physically could not shoot back. The stage was set.
The intelligence gathering was a three-pronged master plan. First, signals intelligence, or SIGINT. The NSA utilized highly sophisticated tracking systems, sweeping up encrypted communications between senior IRGC commanders. Second, satellite surveillance. Low Earth orbit satellites monitored the thermal signatures and vehicle traffic entering and exiting the Pasteur Street compound 24/7. Third, and most dangerously, human intelligence on the ground. By late February, the intelligence picture crystallized. The CIA had confirmed a highly classified mandatory gathering of senior Iranian leaders scheduled for the morning of February 28th. They had the location, they had the precise time. Now they needed the weapons. Future Imagery Architecture, or FIA, was a program awarded to Boeing to design a new generation of optical and radar imaging U.S. reconnaissance satellites. In 2005, NRO Director Donald Kerr recommended the project's termination, and the optical component of the program was finally canceled in September 2005. Despite the optical component's cancellation, the radar component, known as Topaz, has continued, 4 satellites in orbit. So, based on the data collected from world satellite trackers, at exactly 3 to 4 hours before the strike, Topaz hovered over Iran for surveillance and tracking the exact locations. It also helped to get the exact locations and movements of IRGC officers before the strike. And to note, exactly 1 hour before the strike, the satellite tracking systems indicated Persona 3 hovering over Iran. Persona 3 is a class of Russian high-resolution military surveillance satellites. We've got Gaofen 11. Let's look that one up real quick. So, Gaofen 11 and 12 are Chinese high-resolution microwave remote sensing satellites. We see Capella and Gaofen 12 exactly over the point of interest. Is it a coincidence or something even darker? Anyway, Capella is a synthetic aperture radar satellite which can see through clouds. So that's modern warfare for you. Capella hovered exactly at 8 a.m. local time over Iran. It suggests the confirmation of the movement of the Supreme Leaders meeting that was scheduled at 8 a.m. with higher officers at his residence inside Leadership House. Now, what is Leadership House? Let's decode it further. To understand the strike, we first have to understand the target. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He was not a leader who made himself vulnerable. Following decades of regional tension, he rarely left the country. His movements were shrouded in extreme secrecy, protected by the elite Quds Force. The Quds Force is one of 5 branches of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. For years, Western intelligence faced a massive operational blind spot. If a conflict broke out, finding the supreme leader in a country of nearly 90 million people seemed like an impossible task. So, how did they find him? The answer lies in the Pasteur Street complex. Located in downtown Tehran, Pasteur Street isn't just a road, it is a fortress. Pasteur Street further connects to the Leadership House, nearly 600 meters from the Pasteur complex. At the Leadership House, the Iranian supreme leader makes his decisions and meets all his high-ranking officers. In fact, it is the supreme leader's personal administrative compound. The Leadership House is a highly secure zone. The CIA and Israel's Mossad didn't just look for a secret bunker in the mountains. They looked right at the center of the spider's web. But knowing where he is isn't enough. You have to know exactly when he is there. They had the location. But the most shocking element of this joint operation wasn't the firepower. It was the clock. Modern military doctrine dictates that you bomb at night. You use the cover of darkness to evade anti-aircraft fire, utilize night vision advantages, and sow confusion among the enemy. But US and Israeli planners threw the rulebook away. They explicitly chose to strike at 8:10 a.m. local time. Why? Because to cripple a government, you need to catch them while they are working. The daylight strategy ensured that the targets weren't asleep in dispersed underground safe houses. They were sitting right at their desks.
Blue Sparrow missiles. This specific Israeli-developed air-launched ballistic missile, fired from a fighter jet, was used to target Khamenei's compound due to its ability to fly at high altitude and crash down at high speed, evading conventional air defenses. GBU-28 bunker busters. Heavy aerial bombs, possibly GBU-28 or GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, were used to destroy the underground command center beneath Khamenei's compound. F-16 and F-22 fighter jets. These aircraft were part of the broader U.S. air deployment used in the initial phase of strikes on Iran. F-15 fighter jets. The Israeli Air Force, or IDF, used F-15 jets to launch some of the specific weapons, including the Blue Sparrow missile, against the target compound. Tomahawk cruise missiles. Launched from naval platforms, these missiles were used for long-range precision strikes on strategic targets. Let's look at the timeline. The first 15 minutes of Operation Epic Fury were a masterclass in overwhelming force. At minute 1, at 1:15 a.m. Eastern Time and exactly 8:10 a.m. local time, the USS Gerald launched a massive opening salvo of Tomahawk cruise missiles. But they aren't alone. This is the combat debut of the Lucas drone, the low-cost unmanned combat attack system. Launched by U.S. CENTCOM's Task Force Scorpion strike, these one-way American attack drones flood Iranian airspace. They are cheap, they are fast, and there are thousands of them. They swarm Iranian radar screens, creating an impenetrable wall of electronic noise that completely blinds their air defense networks. At minute 5, with the radars blinded, the heavy hitters arrive. F-15E Strike Eagles and F-25 stealth fighters breach Iranian airspace unchallenged. These jets follow the path from the south direction. The F-15E aircraft is loaded with GBU-28 MOP, also known as bunker busters. They don't go for Tehran yet. They hit the missile silos in Tabriz, Kermanshah, and Karaj, systematically wiping out Iran's ability to launch a counterattack. The ground shakes as American bunker-busting munitions tear through layers of reinforced concrete. At minute 10, the first wave of attack on the Leadership House. A new fleet of F-35s strike deep into Tehran. The F-35 stealth fighters bombarded the Leadership House with precision-guided munitions. This caused a highly precision strike, and Khamenei didn't even get a chance for survival. At minute 15, the decapitation. With the skies cleared by the Americans, Israeli F-35s dive toward downtown Tehran. It is broad daylight. Sirens are wailing across the capital. In a matter of seconds, they release a concentrated barrage of precision-guided munitions directly onto the Leadership House. The strike is flawless. Satellite imagery would later confirm that the specific administrative building housing the supreme leader was reduced to a vast stretch of gray dust and debris. The smoke is rising, and the political landscape of the Middle East has been permanently altered.
By 8:25 a.m. local time, the precision gets achieved, leaving a massive power vacuum in its wake. Iranian state media would eventually confirm the unthinkable, the death of Khamenei and several top commanders, including Rear Admiral Ali Shamkhani, Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, Major General Muhammad Pakpour, Commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, Ground Forces, and Major General Abdul Rahim Mousavi, Chief of the General Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces. The operation also resulted in the deaths of several individuals close to Khamenei, including his daughter, Hoda Khamenei, his son-in-law, Mesbah Bagheri Khani, one daughter-in-law, and multiple grandchildren. The coordination between the Pentagon's intelligence gathering and the sheer technological dominance of the strikes is unprecedented in modern warfare. But the question remains, was this a surgical end to a regime, or the opening shot of a much wider, uncontrollable regional war? What do you think? Did the US and Israel make the right tactical call with the daylight strategy? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into military history. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.